How's it going, guys, and welcome back. Today I have for you my reaction or review video, if you will, for this year's E3. It wrapped up last week. Had a chance to watch all of the press conferences, watch a lot of the interviews and a lot of the features they had. So I wanted to go ahead and put a video together, kind of go over everything that I found really intriguing, go over the games that I'm looking forward to the most, just kind of give you my thoughts on this year's E3. So before we actually get into the video itself, a little bit on the gameplay that we have here for you. I actually took this from the Halo Wars 2 beta that was announced last week during Microsoft press conference. It went on during the entire week of E3. If you had a chance to play the first Halo Wars and you like that one, you're gonna like this one. Different characters, different enemies. So there are some changes, but overall the game is about the same. So I really enjoyed it. So hopefully you guys, this gameplay isn't too terribly boring for you. I know I'm not the greatest at the RTS type games. So with that said, we'll go ahead and jump into the non-game related news that I found most intriguing through the entire week. First of all, we got from Xbox, we got the announcement of the two new systems. We got the Xbox S, or the Xbox Slim, which they released some pretty important details on that one. You're going to be able to pick it up in either a 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte hard drive. Price ranges are going to list, and based on the hard drive, are going to start from $299 to $399. There's a integrated power supply now, so you're not going to have that big huge block at the end of the power cable that you have to deal with behind the TV. It's also going to be able to do 4K Ultra and HD and high dynamic range for video. Now it's important to distinguish this. That's for video, because it's also going to have a 4K Blu-ray drive on it as well to be able to play the 4K DVDs or Blu-ray DVDs. It's not 4K gaming. That's a distinction that we have to make between these two. It'll have it be able to do for video to 4K, but it's not going to play the video games in that. So that is actually being saved for the next console they announced, which was the Xbox Project Scorpio. Now, we didn't get very many details on it. We do know that it's going to support the VR. We do know that it's going to support 4K gaming, but we don't know much more than that. It's obviously, they talked about its power, its specs. It's going to be up there in terms of a gaming PC type power levels compared to what consoles are currently doing. So the only other thing that we got for that one was a potential release date of December of next year. So that's still apparently a ways away. I'm sure we'll hear more of it throughout the course of the year, but those were the two that Xbox announced. Project Neo, which is Sony's new upgraded system, did not get mentioned during their press conference and really was not brought up that much during E3. The only thing that we got from Sony is potentially a release date of later this year. Now, from what I've read online and everything that I have seen, rumors have it. Now, I don't have any numbers. I don't have any actual specs to be able to compare things. Rumor is that it's not as powerful as Project Scorpio. We'll have to wait to see once we get that. But it potentially could be coming out this year. That was the big news from Sony on the Project Neo front. Sony really chose to focus on the VR, which is going to be something very prevalent. That is actually supposed to be coming out this year. So that was their kind of major news as far as what system-wise is going to be available for the PlayStation going forward. And I believe the price point for their VR system, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was like $399, $299, something like that. It's up there to the full price of a system. So I don't know if that's worth it or not, but we'll have to wait and see. Another thing that Microsoft showed off was you can now, and I don't know, I've always thought this was kind of cool. Some people may not, but you now have the ability to customize your own controllers. You can do that through Xbox.com. I don't know if that means that we'll be able to actually personally go in there and customize our own controllers like we did with the 360, but it's a step in that direction, I believe. So the other thing that I thought was really cool is they discussed some new upgrades or some new things coming to Xbox Live Service, and one of those being Xbox Arena. And it's going to be an area where the community for any game that I imagine is going to support quite a few games, they're going to be able to set up their own tournaments and events. So I personally like playing in those gaming tournaments. They're fun to do. So I think it's pretty cool to see something where we can actually set up our own tournaments and have that feature going forward. So as far as hardware concerns, this was a fairly light conference for hardware. That was about it. There wasn't very much other system or non-game related news that came out of either conference, either Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, any of the others. So it was pretty light with that. It was very heavy with the games and what we could be seeing coming forward. As far as betas, you guys know me, I'm huge into betas. Obviously, we had the Halo Wars 2 beta. They announced that they're going to be doing an open beta for Battlefield 1. That's going to be very similar to the Hardline beta or the Battlefield 4 beta that's just opened up to the community. They did say if you join and you register with Battlefield Insiders, you'll be able to get into the beta earlier, a few days earlier than the open beta time. So there is that. Titanfall 2, if you go to Titanfall.com, you'll be able to register for the beta that they're going to be doing for that one. Gwent, if you are familiar with The Witcher 3, Gwent was a card game within that game that they're actually turning into a separate game itself. They're doing a closed beta for that you can register for online. And then the Halo Wars beta was the only other beta that was discussed during the conference. So again, pretty light on the beta front as well. So with all of that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the games. Now, this was a very heavy E3 for games, which is good because that's why people watch this conference. The system updates, the attachments, the peripherals, those things like that, they're cool. But we watch these to find out what's coming down the line for video games. We want to see the new, the next big sequel, the new IP. That's what we're looking for. So I think we got quite a bit of that this year within the conference. So first I'm going to start off with some honorable mentions, some games that I think look pretty cool. Kind of leave me worrying a little bit, either the worry of a new IP, is it going to work, or the worry of they told us how it's going to work, but is it actually going to work that way type of concern. So the first one I want to kind of start off with as an honorable mention will be Detroit Become Human. It was a Sony exclusive game that was shown off during their press conference. Now, the big hook with this game is going to be that it is a very big choice, cause and effect type game. Everything you do, every choice you make has a reaction, has an effect in the game. And that's going to affect how everything plays out. So if you've played something like Dragon Age or Mass Effect or any of those types of games where you have that kind of choice mechanic, you're going to be familiar with this. But it appears in this game it's going to be a rather large, prevalent feature. They didn't really show off a whole lot of gameplay. It was more of a cinematic that kind of showed how it would function. You're an android who was set out to negotiate the release of a hostage situation on a roof. Another android has a child, either it's malfunctioned or something has gone on, and it's your job to try to stop this from happening. Now, I'm assuming it's a mission within the game or something this isn't just the game, but they showed that the choices you make in the conversation really affect the way that the NPC or the other android is going to interact with you. There was times where you made a choice and he, basically said you were lying to him, he didn't trust you, and he threw the kid off the building. There was other times where you said something and the way you said it was, it got him to let the kid go and everything ended peacefully. And then there was another choice where you talked to him and then it just kind of snowballed, and he let go of the kid, but then a sniper shot him, and he's like, "You lied to me," and it was just this whole different dynamic of an actual interaction between the characters. So Again, it's a new IP. You worry about that, especially with Sony's recent history with new IPs being announced at E3 and then not really living up to expectations. But it could potentially still be a really good game to look forward to. Another game that I think has really good potential is a Microsoft exclusive, and that is Sea of Thieves. Now, from what we've seen and what they showed a little more gameplay of it this year. It got announced last year just in name only. Sea of Thieves essentially is going to be an MMO-esque type game set in a pirate universe. You'll get to pilot your own ships, you'll get to have sea battles, you'll get to go onto different islands and search for treasure and loot and things like that. So the concept sounds really cool. The problem is how is it going to work, and is it going to work? You have games like Destiny and The Division that have either taken quite a long time to become a solid game or still hasn't become a solid game. So there's still that little concern on how this game is going to function. But it does look pretty cool. The ship battles look amazing. People were firing cannons. Other people were on the bows of the boat trying to patch up the holes to keep it from sinking. There's all different kinds of mechanics going on in one battle to where it seems like it'll be a really chaotic event and it'll be fun to play. So, again, worried about how it's going to work, but if it works, it should be really cool. And then my last honorable mention is going to be Ghost Recon Wildlands. Now, I really liked Rainbow Six Siege. I liked the tactics behind it. I liked the teamwork when players actually did that. But it didn't really have a story. You had your little side things. Oh, I'm going to go in here and get the hostage, things like that. But there wasn't no story behind. There was not a story behind it. Wildlands has a story. It has a campaign, and it has that multiplayer tactic, team-based teamwork behind it. So you couple that with a good story, I really think that this game will actually probably end up being one of my favorite games when it finally does release next year. I believe it's next year. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and go into now my top 5 favorite games from E3. Now, this is across the board. It's not specific to one group or another. It's just whatever games that I thought that I'm going to enjoy the most and I'm looking forward to buying when they finally do come out. So, number 5 is Titanfall 2. Now, the first Titanfall, I liked it. It was a fun game. I enjoyed playing it. The problem for me, which was the same problem for most people, was the lack of a campaign. The quote-unquote campaign, which was actually load screen dialogue, didn't do anything for anybody. The major announcement for Titanfall 2 is Titanfall 2 will have a standalone, offline, full-fledged campaign. So you'll be able to actually explore the lore, see the universe, and actually get some more information behind the Titanfall name. So that looks pretty cool. The other thing that I personally think that looks a lot better than the first one is it appears that the Titans have their own personalities. They're their own characters. Rather than being an extension of a weapon or something like that, they know you, they talk to you, they recognize you. They feel like they're their own independent characters. So if that actually is the case, coupled with a campaign now, that actually make Titanfall 2 almost a must-have. Because the multiplayer for Titanfall 1 was actually really good. So if that other portion is just as good, Titanfall is going to be a must-have, I think, for when that finally hits. So number 4 for me was Dishonored 2. Now, I didn't finish the first Dishonored, and to be honest with you, I didn't play the first Dishonored until it was on a Games for Gold period. I enjoyed the game. It was fun. It reminded me a lot of BioShock Infinite with its art style and the way that it looked. It's a game that does not punish you if you want to go stealthy, if you want to go guns out. You're not going to be punished either way. Now they're adding a second character to the mix, new abilities, new stories, new area. Definitely looks like it's a game that for me, I'm going to pick up. Plus, they announced there's an added bonus for it, where if you pre-order 2, you will get the definitive edition of Dishonored 1, which is Dishonored with all the DLC. So that's actually a pretty good deal in itself. My third game that I'm looking forward to the most, or my third best, is Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, this we just learned prior to E3 that this one was going to be delayed until next year, next February, I believe, which kind of sucks. But we actually got to see some gameplay, some of the combat within this game, and how it was going to work during this year's conference, and it looks absolutely amazing. Still don't really have a whole lot of information on the story. I don't know if we're going to get that. I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to be kept a secret until it comes out. But being able to fight giant mech dinosaurs, and they're not just shoot bullet sponge. You actually have to use some tactics to take them down. That is going to be pretty interesting. So now my runner-up, or my second favorite game from E3, is this one, Halo Wars 2. Now, unfortunately, it is currently getting roasted on the forums online by individuals who I think do not have a full grasp or understanding on what it means to be in beta. That's just my personal opinion. But like I said, I loved the first Halo Wars. It was one of my favorite games from the original, or the 360. I put in quite a bit of time into that, playing either online against players, with friends against AI. I really enjoyed the game. I like the RTS genre. StarCraft is one of my favorite PC games. So getting a chance to play this again on the One, I'm really looking forward to it. It's a new area. There's new enemies, new abilities, new weapons, new vehicles, new units. Everything is going to be different. But the mechanics, the way you play the game, feel the same as the first one. So I definitely think it's going to be one of my pre-orders, and one of my most look forward to games when it finally hits later. So, and that brings me lastly to my number one game of E3, and I think it's very odd because it wasn't announced during a press conference. It was not, I don't recall seeing a lot of it being talked about during the time leading up to E3. So I don't necessarily think it was on a lot of people's radar. And it really wasn't on mine, to be perfectly honest with you, because I've never played any of the other two games. And that's Mafia 3. Now, like I said, I've never played any of the other Mafia games. I have no idea what the story, what the lore, any of that. I don't know any of that. But what they showed off during E3, that was the one thing that I kept coming back to. Even after, while I was kind of waiting in between conferences or trying to kill some time in there, I always went back to this presentation. I had to watch this at least 2 or 3 times. The game, for whatever reason, just it hooked me. Apparently, it's a new protagonist. You're a new main character. There are characters within this game that are from previous games, so that's going to probably hurt me later down the line. I'm not going to know who these people are, but just the dynamics of the interaction between the characters that they showed, that you're part of it. It's set in a New Orleans type area. You're part of the part of one gang. They get double-crossed by another gang, so now it's you trying to seek revenge against the leaders of that gang, and it's just, or that mafia, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even really know the right terminology, but you are using other people in the city, other gangs, other individuals, to help you get what you want, to get revenge. And everything you do affects each individual differently. So if you take over a dockyard and you give it to one person, but that other person really wanted it, they're going to start hating you, eventually to the point where you actually have to go kill that person because now they're against you too. Just that dynamic of the interaction, and its gameplay reminds me a lot of like Grand Theft Auto type, so you'll be kind of familiar with the mechanics there. But I think it's just that character development and the depth that you will have with the characters that really drew me into this game. So like I said, I've never played any of the others. It'll definitely be, out of all of the games that I have seen at E3 this year, that I will buy the minute it comes out. I'll do some videos on it. We'll talk about it. If you haven't had a chance to go see it, I would recommend it. Like I said, I don't know if it's just me or what, Because like I said, I've never played any of the others. I've never even thought about playing the others. Saw this, and that was the only thing that really, really, when compared to everything, drew me in more than the others. So, with that said, guys, E3 is always my favorite time of the year for video games. I love watching the press conferences. I love seeing all the news and everything coming out of it. I like getting into the betas and all that stuff, and you guys know that. But this year's E3 compared to last year's, I think was a little bit better. I like the stuff that was announced for Bethesda. They announced Skyrim remastered, a lot of updates coming to Fallout 4, Doom. Microsoft showed off a lot for Gears of War 4. Sony showed off some new stuff. There was all kinds of things that were shown. So if you hadn't had a chance to go see some of the trailers or even watch the press conferences and you want to kill some time, I highly recommend it because there was a lot of really good and interesting things to come out of it this year. So with that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here. Just a channel update. I did get some new software, some new editing software, so I'm going to try to play along with that. So hopefully the video quality gets a little bit better and the abilities within my videos kind of change. You get to see a little more, I don't know what you call it, variance or whatever you want to call it into it. But I'm working on that, still trying to get used to it. But again, guys, I appreciate your time and your support, and I will catch you guys next time.